Hi there, and welcome to the Hot Slice podcast. This is the podcast brought to you by Pizza Today magazine, and we're here to talk everything pizza business. And if you happen to be watching this on YouTube and you see there is a new person on our screen. So this is Kate Lavin. She joins the Pizza Today team. So we are excited to have a new editor on staff. So Kate, you got to introduce yourself a little bit.
Thank you so much, Denise. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. My name is Kate Lavin, and I am the senior editor of Pizza Today, joining Denise and Jeremy, Josh, and Katie. And I just can't wait to learn everything pizza. I'm so happy to be here.
And we've already sent her on a lot of missions and a lot of education, and she's learning a lot about the business. She's totally excited. And she actually got an outdoor pizza oven, and she's been experimenting and she's getting better at it. So, how are you liking your new oven and cooking pizzas?
I love it. It's so fun. I definitely have a lot to learn. I My second round of pizzas though were a lot better than the first. I will definitely say that. So I'm picking it up as I go.
So we actually did our interview with Daniel Holzman of Danny Boy's famous original in LA a little over a week ago. So before the wildfires broke up in Los Angeles, his pizzerias are doing fine. He's got two locations. And he actually, I'm going to tell you, he, along with several other pizzerias, have been really saviors in those communities, providing a safe place for people to go and escape the fires, but also providing a lot of food to the rescue effort and to people that have been displaced. Our hats go off to the LA community, the people who have lost their homes. I know. Kate, we had you do a little write-up on what was happening in LA. Can you kind of give us a little view of what was transpiring?
Absolutely. I One of my first stories that I did was about a group called Slice Out Hunger and how they have sprang into action after these fires and are making a point to take donations from other pizzerias, from the public, and then use that money to order pizzas from independently owned pizzerias that are close to the fires that are being impacted to feed people who are in shelters, who had to evacuate their homes, also to firefighters and people on the front lines. And it was really inspiring, and I think a great way to dive in and
Yeah,
see what this industry is about.
and we love Scott Wiener. He's been a contributing writer with us, heavily involved with Pizza Expo. Such a great guy out of New York with Scott's Pizza Tours. He's the one that founded Slice Out Hunger, and I mean, the how quickly he got that up to be able to start raising money and start getting pizzerias around the country involved to help out. He's done that with a lot of the disasters. He's done that with the hurricanes. He's done that with the wildfire in Hawaii. It's just Slice Out Hunger's been doing great things. And just other pizzerias have taken it upon themselves to really try to help out what's going on. I see a lot of people doing like California specials on their menu and then donating the proceeds to the rescue effort or the recovery effort in LA. So it's a really everything is kind of fluid right now because there still are fires right now in LA. And we know we have lost pizzerias. So if you do know of a pizzeria that is lost, please reach out to them. Let them know you're there to support them as an industry. We can maybe support some of those folks that have gotten hit hard in our industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, so I wanted to talk about the fires and what was happening before I got into into talking about too much about our guest. So I mentioned his name. So we're talking to Daniel Holzman from Danny Boy's Famous Original. And Daniel is an amazing operator, just a culinary brain. He's got so much going on. Um, He's got two, like I said, he has two locations, but he actually is one of the co-founders of the Meatball Shop in New York, which we had a lot of fun talking about our backgrounds and what he learned from the Meatball Shop and what he's taking into Danny Boy's. Danny Boy's started in 2021. Daniel moved out to Los Angeles in 2019. So he's kind of ready to get out there, and he very much is the personality of the pizzerias, and we love to see that, and we love to talk about it. So we do get his insights on being the face of the brand. But a he's also a writer. He's written a book. I think he's written actually a couple of books on food, and then he actually has a restaurant podcast too. So he is one that is really trying to kind of lead in a very unique and special way.
He really sounded like just an amazing person who wants to know everything about everything. He spoke about how before starting the meatball shop, he wanted to know what made the perfect meatball, and then it turned into what makes the perfect pizza. And I just thought he was a really cool person and a great interview.
Absolutely. And it's actually a pretty long interview. So let's just dive right in to our conversation with Daniel and just let him go from there because he gives so many amazing tidbits and insights that you'll definitely want to catch up on.
Performance Food Service is proud to deliver high-quality products, innovative technology, and custom operational solutions to restaurants of all sizes across the country. The flagship division of Performance Food Group, with deep roots in the restaurant industry, Performance Food Service has been the exclusive distributor of the Roma family of brands for more than 65 years. This signature relationship has allowed Performance Food Service to become a leader in the pizza and Italian segment of food service nationwide.
I'm Genevieve Ruby, a fifth-generation dairy farmer here in Humboldt County, California. Did you know that 99% of California's dairy farms are family-owned? And we're proud to sustainably produce the milk that goes into quality cheeses you use to create your delicious pizzas. Thanks for helping make California not only America's #1 dairy state, but the leading producer of mozzarella too. We hope you enjoy this podcast.
Well, hey, Daniel, thanks for coming on to the podcast today. We really appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here. This is a great alternative to having to go into the pizzeria first thing in the morning.
Hey, well, we're glad to kick off your day there.
I got to at a 10 a.m. start, I get to, like have a cup of coffee at my desk here.
Yeah,
Nice.
heck yeah, that's awesome. Well, you are everyone knows who you are in this industry. You've made a great name for yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of how you got into this business?
Oh, how did I start? So I think everybody knows who I am.
Yeah.
Awesome. I didn't realize that, but I'm glad for that. Um, uh, I grew up on 83rd Street and First Avenue in Manhattan,
Hmm.
and my mom worked nights, and my brother was a bunch older than me, and so I was alone a lot. And so my mom, in order to keep me out of trouble, got me a job as a delivery boy. I started delivering pizza
Ah,
across the street at a pizzeria called Gino's Pizza, and then at Sam Melita's, a Mexican restaurant on Third Avenue, and then at the Candle Cafe on Third Avenue as well. So I started like at 13, 14 years old, as a delivery boy. And it was never, like most folks, it was a kind of an accident. So
yeah,
it was never going to be my career necessarily, but it
yeah.
was something that I just kept on coming back to and kind of fell in love with. And here I am. I'm still looking for my career.
Well, I certainly think you have found it. Now with Danny Boys, you had the the meatball shop in Manhattan, and then when you moved to LA, you decided to go out and do Danny Boys. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of that startup and how you got Danny Boys off the ground?
my wife and I moved out to Los Angeles, and we kind of had the world was our oyster. We didn't really know exactly what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And we had some thoughts of having, I don't know, maybe a fancier restaurant. So, we really didn't know. And one day we'd had a bit too much to drink, and the next day we were really craving pizza. And we ordered from a local joint that purported to serve New York style pizza, and it didn't really remind us of like the pizza that I remember from my childhood that I love.
Yeah.
That's my comfort food. And so started doing that kind of like search around. And as a New Yorker, I feel like you're supposed to be tough and you're supposed to be able to make pizza. That's just like the default settings you come with,
That's nice.
Later on, I learned that neither are true. And so, I kind of embarked on this like, oh, well, maybe it would be fun to learn how to make pizza journey that turned
Mhm.
into an obsession that kind of found its way into Danny Boy's Pizza.
I love it. I love it. And I've talked to several operators that kind of have your similar origin and they were New Yorkers. It's a very New Yorker specific thing to be just like in search of that good New York slice. So I think that that's really fun. What's happening with Danny Boys right now? Like, where is your business currently?
We opened a restaurant downtown Los Angeles about 4 years ago, 3, 4 years ago. And it started out really slowly, and it's in a very kind of odd, quiet location in a big building, and it was after the pandemic when folks weren't in the offices, and it's grown and gotten busier and busier. And then we just about 5 months ago opened a second location in a kind of more visible location in Westwood.
Hmm.
And that one started out a lot busier than the first one. We kind of started out with some of the folks knowing where we were and who we were. Um, and so we're just kind of like in the process of, I don't know if you've ever opened a restaurant, everybody seems to like go through the same experience, which is, the first week is madness. This by
Hmm.
the third week you start to stabilize, but then your whole staff quits, and then you
Yeah.
have to rehire everybody, and then 3 months in, everything's running smooth, and then everything breaks. And so we're
Oh.
just kind of going through that process of finding our forever team and building figuring out what do you pressurize the submarine and look for the leaks.
Oh yeah. Do you have dreams of taking it to several locations? Like what are you hoping to do?
So I opened a restaurant in New York, meatball restaurant, and then we
Hmm.
grew it quite quickly. Um, we had a bunch of locations, and I think I was so concerned with the plan and my development strategy and meeting my kind of like deadlines and goals
Yeah.
that I didn't really pay close enough attention to what the business should be doing and let it dictate. So this time around, I really tried to learn from my mistakes and say, um, we're going to grow this business based on really listening to the health of the business and letting it play itself out. So the first restaurant, like everybody's like, oh, you're gonna have multiple pizzerias and you're gonna do it. And I'm like, well, you don't have
Yeah.
anything unless you have one successful business. So
Yeah.
like, let's open a pizzeria. And then if we like it and we feel like it's doing of service to the community and it works, it's a sustainable, realistic business. Then like let's think about it. Now we have a second restaurant. The second restaurant is very different than the first.
Hmm.
So like, we have a beer and wine license. It's in a bigger location. We have our own dining room versus the first one, which is in kind of like a food hall
Yeah.
environment. So which one works better? And if we want to open a third one, it's like, well, what model should it be?
Yeah.
And then the team really like, it's such a cliched thing to say, but it's like if you don't have the
Team savvy.
team, every restaurant you see grow quickly, at some point comes up against, if I don't have the team members who are passionate and interested, then it's never gonna make it.
What
Yeah.
have you learned about hiring by opening these different restaurants? What do you look for in staff when you're interviewing people?
I so I thought a lot about this. In New York, I was always frustrated that, something wasn't perfect or the person wasn't the right. And at some point, we kind of looked at ourselves and said, wow, we've hired so many folks and nobody's perfect.
Hmm.
maybe nobody's perfect. And so the people that you have are perfect. They're
Yeah.
as perfect as it's going to get. And so if and anytime something isn't working systematically, I kind of think, well, that's a systems wide problem and not a people problem, if that makes sense. And
Hmm.
so I tried to first look for, so what makes people happy at work?
Yeah.
People are happy at work because they have a sense of they're doing a good job. They're learning something. They're paid well, and they believe in what they're doing. They have a sense of purpose, right?
Yeah.
And so if you go backwards on that and we think about like, well, what do we need for people to perform well at our restaurant? We want them to be reliable. We want them to be
Hmm.
passionate. We want them to work well with the team. And we want them to have a great attitude and have fun. And so
Yeah.
like there are four things that the employee needs, and there are four things that the restaurant needs. And
Yeah.
so now when we are interviewing people, we just say those are those we have it's like we go through your resume and we ask you, question by question from restaurant to restaurant and all of your experience. And through that we try and look at, hey, you know, are we going to be able to provide an environment where you are going to, because longevity really is like the most
Yeah.
important piece of the puzzle for us, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how great you are. If you're only here for 3 weeks or 3 months, it's not going to do us or you any good. And the team is destabilized anytime you have turnover. And turnover
Yeah.
is like the number one killer and the most expensive part. So we have, I mean, our turnover at the downtown restaurant hourly is like, it's like 10%. I mean, we lose like
Wow.
almost nobody. And it's been such a amazing thing to watch the this kind of like idea of, hey, wait a second, rather than try and think about I'm looking for the right person, it's like
Hmm.
I'm looking for a person that wants to fit into this environment. That's the main thing we're looking for.
That makes total
Yeah.
sense. With you as an owner, what type of an owner are you? What kind of an operator are you? Are you in there hands-on, interacting with the employees, or do you let your managers take care of things? Like, how do you lead?
I'm really trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
When I open the restaurant, I'm there, 7 days a week until I feel like I can let go, and then I'm quite hands off.
Hmm.
Not I shouldn't say hands off. I visit both restaurants every single day.
Yeah.
I check in, I make sure that the team is happy. Um, if it's busy or there's any sense of stress going on, I jump on and I start working with the team.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, knowing myself as a cook, like the last thing you want when you're stressed out and not going well is for your boss to come in and kind of make it more stressful. So the
Yeah.
idea is like jump in and help, be there. So every time ideally, you're the type of boss that every time you show up, people are happy that you're there and you're making the restaurant better. The big mistake we made, another one in New York, is, I had the team at the restaurant working for the management people who were,
Yeah.
running the business. And I think, the big one for this new pizzeria, to try and fix what I feel like was a big mistake, is the managers are there to work for the team, because the team is there to service the customer. The team is on the front line earning the business the money and doing the actual work. So
Hmm.
everything needs to be in support of that and make that smooth. So like instead of the manager having to report up to the boss should be checking in to make sure that everything is going well. Like having that, like every night you have to write a report and you have to do this and you have to do
Yeah.
that, so that some middle management person can then report it to their boss. It's just like, is it really in service of, is this making the business, like the core values or of the business? So like, is this making the food better? Is this making
Hmm.
the customer happier? Is this making the team happier? Is this in service of our investors? Like the answer is no.
Yeah.
So that's pretty easy, right? Like, so what type of boss am I? I'm really trying to figure out my role, where I should be. I don't know exactly. at this time. I'm like, really, that's like my New Year's resolution. Thanks for stressing me out.
Sorry. I think you actually got a pretty good handle on it because you're not wanting that corporate structure with your pizzeria. You're wanting a very personal approach to your business. And I think that's really cool. One other thing I think is really interesting about your business is you are the persona of your business. Like you are the brand. And it's well documented. I look through your social media and things. Um, how is that as, your other business, you weren't necessarily like right out in front and now you are the brand. How has that played out for you?
Um, I guess, we have two restaurants, and so we're
Mhm.
just in the infancy of this thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess we'll see how that is. I think that there's some benefits to it, from it's really nice to go to a restaurant and have someone go, "Oh, you're that guy that makes a good pizza," like skip the line and we'll give you a free appetizer. So that's lovely. There's definitely some. I feel a very personal connection to the business, and I do feel
Hmm.
like our guests are, our customers are our guests and like are my family, and my team is an extended family. So it feels natural to me to
Hmm.
but at the same time, maybe it's ego driven and a mistake and ultimately won't benefit. We're going to see,
Yeah.
maybe the brand needs to evolve away from it.
I think it's a great branding approach. And I will say that you execute it really well. And that's one thing I was curious about what are kind of the keys to if you are going to be the presence of your brand, what how can you make it a little bit more successful for those that maybe are still thinking about how they want to go in their brand direction?
I think that the big and it kind of I think people have to be honest with themselves
Hmm.
about what they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Um, because I mean, I guess there are folks that have the discipline to do a job they don't like or to do a job in a way they don't like it on the long term. But I think for most of us in the restaurant world, we fell into this job because we don't have the discipline to sit at a desk and
Yeah.
or maybe it's not the right way to say it because it sounds negative, but I know that about myself. So
Hmm.
trying to lead or manage or run my business in a way that isn't honest and true eventually becomes very apparent. And I think right now, especially, uh, folks are really craving authenticity. There's so
Hmm.
much fake bullshit in the world.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
I'm like looking on AI and my wife is making fun of me because I'm like, look at the size of this pig, and she's like,
Yeah.
it's like obviously fake. Like it looks like a house. Um, delicious. So I think, you really got to be true to yourself. Like, are you the type of person that loves to be in front of the camera and wants to ham it up? And, if you are, then like, awesome. You should embrace that and make that your, part of your brand. And if you're kind of a bit shyer and found yourself in the kitchen for that reason, then like, maybe, that would be a better direction for you to stay away. Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think about you have a huge educational component to yourself. You've written books, you have your podcast. Kind of what drives you to try to educate people more on, your culinary endeavors or just basic education on culinary pursuits?
I mean, I just think first of all, learning to cook is like the greatest gift you can give yourself,
Yeah.
period. You eat less expensively, you eat better, eh, you get laid, like everything about it is just good, right?
Yeah.
Uh, like being able to cook well is just a positive for you. It's something it's like learning to play the piano. You can go to any party and have something to offer. It's just such a wonderful and I think unfortunately, now more than ever more folks want to cook and fewer folks know how to cook because we've lost generationally, we've lost, our structure of how we learned how to cook. Starting in the
Hmm.
1940s and 50s, we stopped cooking at home and with, there's like a whole history of it. I got a whole history into it that I kind of I can and so, for me, when I think of what it means to be a chef and what I admire from the great chefs from that I've kind of worked for was they were always kind of teaching the next folks how to, and it's very much like a hands-on, handed from one person to the other, artisan craft.
Hmm.
And so I feel like it's both a responsibility and a joy to kind of pass on what you've learned. And also the culinary community, that's kind of what we're all about. I mean, I can pick up the phone and call up a pizza chef that I've never spoken to and never known and say, "Hey man, I'm having trouble with my fermentation. I'm looking on your Instagram and your crust is like, what are you
Yeah,
doing?" And they'll just sit on the phone and talk to me. And so I think it's not like I'm educating folks. I think it's an entire community that's sharing and trying to, elevate all of our experience on this, like, sometimes great planet.
that's amazing.
Um, on that topic, you mentioned you started working at restaurants when you were, I think you said 13 or 14 years old. When you have younger people who are working in your kitchen, do you make it a priority to kind of try and bring them up in the restaurant business in that same way?
I I try and treat everybody like they are an adult and an essential part of the team. And either they want to be there and want to be on the team or not. Um, you know, I think that the restaurant business is very rewarding, but very challenging. And I don't think that folks should get into it unless it's something that they're genuinely passionate for. So I don't necessarily try to, convince folks that they should want to find
Hmm.
their way to that. But if somebody shows an interest, I always welcome them. Um, I really, my genuine kind of like belief is that, if somebody doesn't make it on my team, I've really failed. So, especially when somebody is young, and they aren't enjoying themselves or aren't doing well, I feel like there's something I'm doing really wrong. So that's my my big I recently had a friend's kid come and work for me and he just didn't do well and I still feel really like what did I do wrong to
Yeah,
that what did I do wrong to like that this guy, because it's so fun working in the restaurant. Like you're
yeah,
part, it's like you might as well be playing soccer or something. It's like you're on this amazing team of like, pirates that are it's so yeah, I don't know that I'm trying to like inspire folks to join the industry so much as support folks that are already
yeah.
inspired.
But also, didn't you think it's like kind of a thing on the buy-in? You really have to buy into what you're doing and what you're working for. I can remember working in restaurants as a kid, and there were some that I would work in, and I was just there for a paycheck. I didn't want to. I just was just filling a void. And then there were other places where it was, I really wanted them to be successful and wanted to advance and wanted to do things. But it was a total kind of buy-in on my part.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. When you go to Japan and you see like the person cleaning the subway and with like like a sense of responsibility to the
Mhm.
community that and sense of meaning in their job that they understand. Um, there's something that we're not doing a great job. It doesn't feel like as like a nation or whatever of communicating to our kids the responsibility or the like benefit to
Mhm.
themselves of being prideful of their work, right? Like
Yeah.
and their contribution. And
Hmm.
so this like kind of that for me is like the whole it's like in any team like the whole country is one big team and like we want
Hmm.
everybody to feel good about what they're doing so that they can have a positive impact, which will make it better for everybody. And like, yeah, I want, so I don't know. And so for me, when I see folks that are don't catch that, but even if it's just a job, I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I just like my brain does not, even if it's just a job, any job
Yeah.
is of service to the community. Like as a kid, when you're like smoking pot and delivering pizzas and playing the harmonica and you don't care at all, you're still actually offering a service to the community. You can do that well. Doesn't mean you can't be your quintessential self, but
Yeah.
I think people should be I think there should be pride that, and I think it's our job to praise that. And
Yeah.
I'm
I
sorry,
think it is.
that's what I think.
Um, kind of back on the pizza topic, and we'll let you go soon. But back on the pizza topic, you had mentioned that in LA you just weren't finding that thing that made a New York slice a New York slice. What is it for you that makes the New York slice just the
So
perfect slice?
first of all, Los Angeles has a ton of great pizza.
Yeah, oh yeah.
There's no question about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about this argument that it's like the greatest pizza city in the world. I think that's like a little, LA's constantly like self-proclaiming this, the best bagels in the world,
Yeah.
best pizza in the world, best everything. You're like, really? Like you have the best Mexican food in the world, better than Mexico City, like best pizza in the world, like better than Rome, like
Yeah.
I'm saying, but how about like wide variety and
Hmm.
best in class of almost any style, great
Yeah.
Tokyo stuff, like, so there's no question about that. But I like,
Hmm.
I don't want to, but so, um, a New York slice of pizza. So the history of it is that, the Italian diaspora started and came through in America, came through Ellis Island, right?
Hmm.
They all came through New York. So before there were Italians anywhere else in the country, they were all in New York City, and Italians were discriminated against. There's a
Hmm.
lot of xenophobia, and folks didn't like the Italians, and so they kind of had to help each other out and stick together. And one of the businesses and services that they helped each other to through a network of support was through these kind of like quasi franchise style pizzerias around New
Hmm.
York City. So it was like you get the dough from the same person. You will set you up with the recipes and the doughs and the sauces and the cheese. And at
Yeah.
the time there was only a few. There was like this is the cheese guy. This is how you make your sauce. And so it became very very uniform. Now when you come out to LA, I think folks try and do some of the or different cities.
Hmm.
Recently, obviously, more folks have this has kind of changed, but up until recently, like you couldn't get the same flour you got in New York in LA. So
Yeah.
like right there, the ingredients, the technique are both kind of essential to the end product.
Yeah.
So if you want a New York slice, you have to start with the right ingredients. You got to use the right technique. One of the hardest things is like, how do you teach somebody that hasn't tasted something what it's supposed to taste like, right?
Yeah.
So I'm constantly going to the restaurant and I'll notice that the crust starts to grow and grow and grow. And the truth is that when you like a great baker
Yeah.
loves to see that crust growing
Yeah.
because it's a sign that the yeast is alive, it's been properly proofed and
Yeah.
fermented. And so my team is doing something that is great, but
Yeah.
it's not but that greatness is in opposition to what is classically of a New York slice. So, how do you how do you maintain that? I think is like the big piece of the puzzle. Like, how do you define what makes it? A New York slice, right ingredients. Obviously, there's the like, it should not flop at the tip when you hold it.
Hmm.
When you fold it, it should fold and not, it should crack, but it shouldn't break. It should be
Yeah.
crispy on the bottom, chewy on the top, size and sauce. But, throughout my process, throughout this experience, as I've started to like, there are, like state rules, then I'll get
Hmm.
some like old, Italian guy that's like on Avenue U, the pizzas they were never 18 inches. You're crazy. Like that, they always cut it four ways. And you're like, oh, so what's the authentic New York slice? It's authentic for me to my like 1990s childhood.
Yeah.
So it's a time and a place.
What was your favorite slice in New York, or Or a couple? Do you have couple?
Yeah, I mean, growing
Yeah.
up, it was Ray's on Third Avenue, that on
Yeah.
and 80, First Street or 77th Street. I liked 84th Street. I liked there were three of them.
Mhm.
Now, then it became Joe's. Joe's was like, the
Yeah.
greatest on Bleecker Street. And then now there's a bunch. There's Mama's too. There's
Yeah.
three. Both of those are Scars. Those three are really like contending for
Yeah.
the top place. They're kind of like neo classic New York, where they're
Yeah.
like which is what I think we are. Like we're doing what we think is the best version of what it should be, but we're not using canned mushrooms, but we're trying to cook our mushrooms in a way that would taste like the same texture of a
Mhm.
canned mushroom, but we're not like, like, hey, I can't do the canned mushrooms.
I love it. I love it. So I can't let you go without saying that we have been following you since your the mushroom shop or the mushroom shop, the
Mushroom
meatball.
shop is
I
genius.
like it. I like it. The meatball shop days. And in fact, my colleague that was going to be on this podcast too, we actually like went searching for one of the shops and had it, and it was so fun. So what I'll ask you is meatballs. What was your fascination with meatballs?
Well, it's so funny. I kind of felt like most things, you start out with something and you think, oh, like, you know, where's the greatest meatball hero in New York City? Meatball hero is an iconic New York City dish. Where's the
Mhm.
greatest one? I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't there a definitive greatest meatball hero in New York City? Like, well, that'll be like this on Monday. It's what day is today? Monday. On
Yeah.
Saturday, I woke up. I had a dream. I could not sleep. I was up until 3:30 in the morning, and in my mind, I was thinking, I'm so angry at myself. I can't make a roast chicken as
Yeah.
I want to make the roast chicken. I want a roast chicken that is both moist and falling off the bone. Like, how do I make the greatest roast chicken in the world? And I was like, I don't know where can I get like the greatest roast chicken? Like, where
Mhm.
does everybody say that's the best place in the area? Isn't it? I'm like, man, we got to do that. Like, I
Then I
got to
gotta
start
create
roasting
it.
chicken. So like
Yeah.
this year, I'm going to roast a chicken like every day until I can make the. And that was the meatball. It
That
started
was the
out as
meatball.
like,
Nice.
where's a great meatball hero, and then it ended up in this crazy obsession of like, because then you start to. I mean, we were at Tyson's Foods talking to like the chicken growth scientists, which isn't my world. I find that to
Yeah.
be a little off-putting,
Mhm.
personally. But like, these are passionate PhD, professionals that know so much more about chicken than I would ever learn. And then I'm like, they know so much about this protein structure of chicken that I can now maybe we should change the way we make our chicken meatballs. And then all of a sudden it's
Yeah.
better. And you're thinking, man, like I shouldn't have been snooty all these years and like learning from these folks.
Yeah.
And anyway, that was a
Education is
long bit.
quintessential, man. I love it. Your passion for just going and finding out the answers. You're gonna have roast chicken on your menu here soon,
I'm
aren't
definitely
you?
not having roast chicken on the menu, but I
Sounds
but I have this great grill in my backyard, and I really like. I had this huli huli chicken in Hawaii a couple of years ago that's still like
in
stuck in
your
my
brain.
brain.
I feel you. I feel you. Well, we will let you get off of this podcast because I know you've got probably a busy day, but I want to thank you for hopping on and telling us a little bit about you. And we're going to continue to follow your journey, and we can't wait to see what you do. You're going to be in Vegas, right? You're coming to Expo?
I'm gonna be in Las Vegas. I get excited about it every year, and then every
Excellent.
year I'm like, I don't really want to go at the last minute, and then I go and I learn so much that I'm like, I'm happy I went. So
Cool.
I'll definitely be there.
All right, sweet. Well, stop by the Pizza Today booth and say hello.
Thank you too so much. I really, really appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Daniel.
Cheers.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.